September 12th, 1958, 11:47 in the evening. In that tense late hour, Big Sam's hand quivered noticeably as he clenched the pistol's grip tightly. Every fiber of his being seemed to rebel against the looming act, a moment pregnant with dread and irreversible consequence. $50,000. That was the sum the five powerful families had set as a bounty on Bumpy Johnson's head, a figure whose shadow loomed over Harlem like an unassailable fortress. And there was Sam, who had served as Bumpy's bodyguard for 5 long years, the very man Bumpy referred to as his brother, now accepting this deadly offer. Betrayal had festered within him slowly, eroding his once unshakable loyalty like rust devouring iron. The scheme appeared deceptively simple on the surface. Slip into Lenox's Lounge, the favored haunt of Harlem's elite where shadows danced with whispers of power, bide his time until Bumpy grew distracted by conversation or a glass raised in toast, then deliver one precise shot to the back of the head. Afterward, melt into the enveloping darkness of the night streets, vanishing among the labyrinthine alleys where no pursuer could trace his path. Sam crossed the threshold into the lounge, where the air hung heavy with cigar smoke and the murmur of guarded exchanges. Bumpy Johnson occupied his customary corner table, his back turned squarely to the entrance, leaving him utterly exposed in a way that felt almost tangible, like a fissure in an otherwise impenetrable wall. Vulnerability clung to the Harlem leader in that instant, raw and undeniable. With deliberate slowness, Sam reached for his weapon, fingers wrapping around the handle with practiced precision honed from years of vigilance. He aligned his sight on the target, held his breath, and squeezed the trigger. A dry click echoed. Nothing more. No explosion of fire, no thunderous report, just an oppressive silence that draped the room like a shroud. The entire venue froze, as if time itself had halted in disbelief. Patrons who moments before had buzzed with lively chatter now fixed their gazes on the unfolding drama, eyes wide with incredulity. Bumpy Johnson turned unhurriedly, his stare, cold, piercing, and laden with unspoken judgment, locking onto Sam's with unyielding intensity. In that pivotal heartbeat, he delivered just 5 words, ones destined to echo through legend as the hallmark of his unbreakable dominion. "I've been counting on you." Yet beneath this dramatic tableau lay a far richer tapestry, one omitted from formal chronicles and history texts. None in that room suspected that Bumpy Johnson had been aware of the impending assassination plot for a full 3 weeks. He hadn't merely anticipated the danger, he had orchestrated a meticulous response, transforming what could have been a fatal ambush into a masterclass in control that would reshape Harlem's power structure for generations. His maneuvers during those fraught weeks preserved not just his life, but cemented his status as the quarter's undisputed sovereign, where authority stemmed from cunning as much as from brute force. To fully appreciate the gravity of that night in Lenox's Lounge, one must delve deeply into the character of Bumpy Johnson as he stood in 1958. Far from being just another thug chasing quick fortunes amid the criminal underbelly, Bumpy embodied Harlem's steadfast protector, a living bulwark shielding his community from the ravenous outsiders circling like predators eager to devour everything sacred. In him converged raw power and profound care, forging a legend revered by those he championed. By the waning years of the 50s, Harlem teetered under siege, akin to a medieval stronghold battered by relentless invaders. The Italian Mafia, spearheaded by the formidable five families, had waged a protracted campaign to seize control of the neighborhood's lucrative numbers racket. This underground lottery was a veritable gold mine. Impoverished laborers and homemakers wagered their meager nickels and dimes, sums that swelled into millions of dollars flowing through hidden channels. The Italians hungered for every last cent, viewing Harlem as a ripe territory to engorge their sprawling empires. Standing firm against their incursions was the indomitable Bumpy Johnson. He had cultivated a governance model alien to the interlopers, one they struggled to comprehend. Bumpy didn't rely solely on terror and coercion, though he wielded plenty of both when required. His rule drew its strength from a bedrock of genuine respect, earned through deeds that resonated deeply. When Harlem families faltered under the weight of rent payments, Bumpy intervened quietly, settling debts from his own coffers to keep roofs over heads and families intact. Should police unleash harassment on black-owned businesses through unjust inspections and shakedowns, a single call from Bumpy sufficed to quell the storm, sending the oppressors retreating as if scorched by invisible flame. And when Italian extortionists dared encroach on local enterprises, Bumpy countered with a ferocity that etched indelible lessons into their memories. The five families had exhausted their arsenal of tactics in futile assaults. They dispatched their hulking enforcers, bruisers with reputations as merciless butchers, only for Bumpy to dispatch them back in ambulances, broken and humbled. Overtures of negotiation followed, laced with promises of lucrative shares and partnerships, yet Bumpy remained steadfast. Harlem was not for sale, no commodity to be bartered on the open market. Resorting to corruption, they bribed politicians and officials in hopes of ensnaring Bumpy in webs of influence, but his connections ran deeper, more resilient than theirs. By 1958, desperation gripped the families, a volatile state where frantic minds birthed the most reckless and perilous schemes. Frank Costello, New York's most commanding mafia patriarch whose decree could upend the city, summoned an urgent conclave. Every one of the five families dispatched envoys. This was no casual discussion, but a war council dissecting their Achilles' heel. At the forefront loomed the relentless enigma of Bumpy Johnson, an adversary who evaded capture like mist in the morning fog. "We've unleashed raw force," Costello intoned in a voice flat and icy, chilling the spines of all who heard. "We've flung money by the bundle. We've maneuvered through political corridors, yet nothing penetrates. This man is an untouchable specter." "And your counsel?" probed Carlo Gambino, striking a match to his cigar and exhaling a thick veil of smoke, appraising the impasse with the detachment of seasoned calculation. Costello inclined forward, eyes narrowing to slits of resolve. "We strip away his invulnerability, locate the one soul he trusts without reservation, as if an extension of himself, and turn that loyalty against him." It was then that Big Sam's name surfaced in the shadowed deliberations. Samuel, known as Big Sam Foster, had been Bumpy's steadfast sentinel since 1953, 5 years of unwavering service. Towering at 6 feet 4 inches and weighing 260 pounds of pure might and allegiance, he resembled a fortress incarnate. Twice he had interposed his frame to intercept bullets fated for Bumpy, hazarding his life without a flicker of doubt. He stood vigil at Bumpy's mother's deathbed, offering solace in grief's deepest hour. Side by side, he weathered savage clashes with the remnants of Dutch Schultz's crew, endured relentless police raids, and braved every tempest that battered their realm. If any figure could infiltrate Bumpy's defenses undetected, closing to lethal proximity, it was unequivocally Big Sam. The families deployed their specialist, Tony the Collector, a man who shunned the crude brutality of bone-cracking or skull-bashing. Instead, Tony excelled at excavating fissures in the human psyche, wielding weaknesses with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, for every soul harbored such vulnerabilities. 20th of August, 1958, precisely 3 weeks before the fateful showdown. Big Sam emerged from his unassuming apartment on 132nd Street when a sleek black Cadillac glided to the curb, an emblem of opulence intertwined with menace. The rear window descended with a soft hum. There sat Tony Marinay, beaming with disarming affability, as if hawking commonplace life insurance rather than peddling doom. "Sam, right? Big Sam? Tales of your exploits abound," he cooed gently, devoid of pressure. Sam's hand instinctively gravitated to his waistband, where his trusty .45 slumbered. "Who wants to know?" he snapped, curtly, braced for confrontation. "A well-wisher, someone poised to line your pockets beyond dreams." Tony gestured invitingly to the empty seat beside him. "Grant me 5 minutes. Hear my proposition. Should it sour, walk away unscathed. No repercussions." Sam ought to have pivoted and vanished that instant. His survival instinct screamed as much, yet curiosity, that perennial snare of mortal frailty, prevailed. He sank into the plush leather, and the vehicle purred onward. Tony dispensed with preambles. "You're no fool, Sam. You navigate this world's currents adeptly. Your devotion to Bumpy commands admiration, truly, but devotion mends no child's illness nor foots her mounting bills." Sam's jaws locked with grinding tension. His youngest, Keisha, had battled tuberculosis for 6 grueling months, a scourge gnawing her vitality while treatments hemorrhaged their scant reserves. Hospital invoices piled relentlessly, a suffocating avalanche threatening to bury his family. He had beseeched Bumpy for succor, receiving $2,000, a noble gesture, yet a mere droplet against an ocean of want that perpetually fell short. Tony unfastened the briefcase latch, revealing pristine stacks of $100 bills gleaming like forbidden treasure. $50,000, our stake. Sufficient for premier physicians, exhaustive therapies, enough to ferry your loved ones to salubrious climes where Keisha draws unlabored breaths, unshackled from slum feeder. For what service? Sam exhaled, his heart foreknowing the toll. 1 discharge, 1 fleeting instant. September 12th in Lenox's Lounge. Bumpy frequents Fridays like clockwork. Bide until distraction claims him. Bullet to the nape. Clean, expeditious. Our chariot awaits. Fresh identities for your kin entire. Dawn finds you in Miami's embrace, palms swaying. Within 7 days, rebirth as another man. Sam fixated on the fortune, visions cascading, Keisha's pallid countenance restored, her deliverance, a poverty-free horizon for his bloodline, all hinged on a solitary trigger depression. And refusal? He whispered, voice fracturing. Tony's facade cracked, steel glinting beneath. Then Kesha withers incrementally in that pauper's ward. You linger in Bumpy's shadow, peering backward eternally, cognizant that a round etched with your name hurtles inexorably. Thus concludes our existence, Sam. Mutual knowledge. The variance? Pauper's grave or opulent repose. Sam alighted mutely, yet clutched the briefcase. Tony had artfully positioned it in plain allure, embedding temptation deep. Sleep eluded Sam that night entirely. In his chamber's gloom, his daughter's visage materialized, frail, contorted by rasping inhalations, her valiant grin piercing pain to spare him further torment. These specters seared his essence like molten ore. Then intruded the briefcase, swollen with salvation for Keisha, authentic vitality for his household, a rupture from destitution's gyre. 3 days of torment and deliberation elapsed. At last, Sam dialed Tony's line. "Count me in," he rasped hollowly. "Funds up front. Half now, half upon fulfillment." "Seal struck," Tony rejoined briskly. "Welcome among champions." Unknown to Big Sam or the cunning Tony, Bumpy Johnson discerned the encroaching peril ere Sam's footfall into that accursed Cadillac. Bumpy's ascent to Harlem's pinnacle owed naught to naive trust in fellows. Rather, it sprang from profound insight into humanity's frailties. He recognized each entity's valuation, each concealed chink, rendering all purchasable or shatterable for the right incentive. His informant web spanned the district, unobtrusive yet omnipresent. Barkeeps in dim-lit dens, shoe shiners at street corners, cabbies threading traffic, janitors in nooks, humble phantoms the Mafia scorned to remunerate. Among them, parking attendant Jerome spotted Tony Marinet's Cadillac idling at Sam's domicile. He marked Sam's ingress, his 5-minute sojourn, his egress, and inscribed the plate, a trifling detail freighted with destiny. 2 hours thence, Jerome occupied Bumpy's sanctum above Small's Paradise Jazz Club. "Tony Marinet's wheels," he declared, proffering the note across the desk. "At Big Sam's Dawnside. Sam boarded, 5 minutes, debarked." Bumpy scrutinized the script, then Jerome. "Marinet for certainty?" "Absolute. Prior sightings. Extorts Italian haunts eastward." Bumpy pondered in protracted hush, atmosphere thickening. He rummaged his drawer, withdrew $500 tendered to Jerome. "You beheld zilch, absent the locale. Comprehend?" "Affirmative, Mr. Johnson, sir." And he evaporated. Solitary Bumpy ruminated 2 hours within confines. Sam's 5-year companionship, battles shared, fealty forged, lives entwined. Yet Italian murmurs now tantalized. Bumpy knew desperation warped judgments invariably. Bumpy could dispatch Sam forthwith. One summons, and East River claimed another. Conventional wisdom decreed, excise threat, forge ahead. Bumpy transcended convention. Across subsequent 3 weeks, he surveilled Sam with raptorial acuity, quavering grips intermittent, ocular shadows of disquiet, tempests raging twixt duty and desperation. Slaying yielded to enlightenment, a stern tutelage. He enlisted Brooklyn armorer Victor, 15 years refining Bumpy's arsenal. "Forge me a barren firearm," Bumpy commanded. Victor faltered. "Defunct? Purpose?" "Nay. Flawless veneer, heft, tactile verisimilitude, trigger yields solitary click. No ordnance, no striker kiss. Mimicry supreme." Victor consummated in 3 days. 38 facsimile of Sam's service piece, mass equilibrated, ergonomics mirrored, inert core. Precision chronology ensued. Sam's armament demanded clandestine transposition undetected. September 8th, 4 days antecedent assault, Bumpy tasked Sam Bronk's ward. "Procure envelope from liaison. Imperative. Return bearing it alone." Minimum 3-hour detour. Opportune interlude. Sam afield, Bumpy and Paramount ally Illinois Gordon infiltrated the flat. Sam's piece resided shoebox bedside, as prognosticated. Swap seamless. Discernment nil. Bumpy bided Sam's volition. Antecedent accusation invited Sam's equivocation. Italians procure surrogate Judas. Vicious cycle endures. Nay, Sam must discharge. Breach irrevocably. Thereupon betrayal's zenith unveils veracity. Not Sam alone, but assembly. Harlem aggregate. 5 families apprehend. Proclamation crystalline. Regal betrayal courts inexorable reckoning. You cannot eliminate Bumpy Johnson, for Bumpy Johnson perpetually anticipates events 3 steps in advance. September 12th, 1958, 11:47 post-meridium. within the confines of Lenox Lounge. The establishment brimmed that evening with vitality, accommodating 300 souls, melodists, opportunists, entrepreneurs, and civic leaders alike. A quintessential Friday in Harlem evoked symphonies of jazz, measures of cognac, and dialogues destined to sculpt the district's trajectory. Bumpy occupied his signature nook, conferring with a pair of municipal councilors on prospective domiciles atop Sugar Hill. His attire gleamed impeccably, a gray ensemble of tailored perfection, while his emblematic fedora reclined beside an unmolested tumbler of Hennessy. Big Sam materialized at 11:30, fortified by libations sufficient to quell tremors without inducing inebriation. Concealed in his coat's recess lurked the .38 Special revolver, companion of 5 years, harbinger in his delusion of $50,000 enrichment. Sam ensconced himself proximate the bar, vigilant, expectant. Bumpy's posterior faced outward, engrossed in discourse, ostensibly defenseless. At precisely 11:47, Sam initiated his advance, threading the throng with palms shrouded within jacket folds, clasping the lethal instrument. None remarked. Sam's proximity to Bumpy constituted routine, anticipated as the bodyguard's mantle. Sam neared Bumpy's perch, 6 feet distant, contracting to 4, then 2. He extracted the firearm. The barkeep discerned it foremost, optics dilating in alarm, yet antecedent to any vociferation. Sam had aligned upon Bumpy's occiput and actuated the mechanism. Click. The futile percussion of striker upon void reverberated amid abrupt quiescence. The jazz ensemble truncated mid-cadence. Colloquies expired mid-phrase. 300 visages pivoted toward Big Sam, transfixed with impotent armament quivering in grasp, juxtaposed against Bumpy Johnson's imperturbable composure devoid of recoil. Bumpy savored a deliberate draught of cognac, deposing the vessel with delicacy ere swiveling. His gaze upon Sam conveyed not fury's blaze, but dismay's abyss, profounder terror. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy articulated sotto voce. Those quintuple syllables assailed Sam fiercer than leaden hail, for enlightenment dawned. Bumpy possessed omniscience. The overture from Tony Maroney, the 50,000 inducement, the stratagem, comprehensive foreknowledge. Rather than precipitate Sam's demise or fluvial submersion, Bumpy permitted ingress, trigger depression, self-disclosure antecedent 300 attesters. Thus Sam demolished his stature, his rectitude, before communal scrutiny. Sam's revolver plummeted, clanging. Extremities buckled. He genuflected, mercy deity, Bumpy contrition profound. "I cognize your daughter's plight," Bumpy interjected, timbre subdued yet pervasive in hush. "Awareness endured 6 months. Deem you I neglect my fold?" Bumpy procured a missive from Vestment, consigning it tabular. Keisha's fiscal obligations, totality, acquitted this morn. Enclosed additionally a voucher $5,000 for kin requisites arbitrary. Sam's orbs brimmed saline. Yet wherefore reticence? Verification imperative, Bumpy expounded. Confirmation whether avarice supplanted fealty, their 50,000 eclipsed our fraternity. He suspended. Clarity attained. Bumpy arose. Though stature modest, 5 feet 7 inches, in that juncture he towered tenfold. "Depart Harlem this eve. Convey progeny evanesce. Locale indifferent, but recidivist visage or nomenclature incurs no reprise. Assimilate?" Sam assented, lacrimal rivulets cascading. "And Sem," Bumpy intoned subtonally profundior, relay verbatim to Italian's nocturnal occurrence. Affirm Bumpy Johnson discerned, perpetually discerned. Loyalty unprocurable in Harlem. Reiterate, recidivism forfeits clemency. Sam ascended tremulous, reclaimed feudal ordnance, egressed Lenox's Lounge. That night, New York relinquished him eternally. Latter intelligence positioned him amid Detroit's edifice laborers, a fractured entity burdened by perfidy unto terminus. Post-departure, Bumpy pivoted roomward. 300 regarded in muteness. They beheld impossibility. Assassination essayed upon Bumpy Johnson, transmuted to didactic exemplar sans sanguine effusion. Clarification imperative, Bumpy proclaimed, vociferation traversing extremities. The Italians presume procurability, presume schism inducement, presume Harlem forfeiture via indigence, pigmentation in consequence. He elevated cognac. Erroneous. Harlem invendable. Erstwhile, henceforth inviolate. Aspirants to contravene, ingress precincts procuratorial. Emulate Big Sam's enlightenment. Protection pertains not us. Adversaries require aegis. Bumpy hoisted vessel. To Harlem, to unprocurable fealty. 300 emulated. To Harlem. Melodists recommenced. Dialogues revived. Minutes thence, normalcy feigned, save transformative profundity. Nocturnal chronicle disseminated underworld New York, akin conflagration. Aurora beheld every malefactor Boston to Baltimore apprised. Bumpy Johnson prevised strike 3 weeks antecedent, permitted consummation, compelled traitor auto da fe antecedent 300. Immaculate, bloodless. 5 families convoked exigency subsequent dawn. Frank Costello fulminated, not Bumpy Ward, but Tony Marinay Ward, architect Phelan. Carlo Gambino perceived profundity. Insuperable this entity, Gambino murmured. Exhaustive arsenal exhausted. Coercion futile, pecuniary futile, inversion futile, antecedent motion, prognostication, countermeasure, Costello imperated. Gambino ignited cigar. Harlem abdication. Orient Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx Ward. Harlem Bumpy Johnson's domain. Usurpation hemorrhages capital. Personnel. Premier instance. Italian Mafia capitulated territorial sans discharge. Bumpy Johnson evinced transcendence gangstery. Strategos. Ludens schach decem progressionis praecox. Versus Grand Magister Ludum non ineas nisi paratus ad casum. Big Sam's perfidy mythologized Harlem. Generational transmission filial, nepotial. Transcended narration, dogma fealty, anticipation triplex, veritas potentiae. Dissemination accelerated underworld. Auroral intelligence omnis underworld, Boston, Baltimore. 5 families exigency convoke. Carlo Gambino unprecedented. Harlem relinquishment. Insuperabilis. Bumpy perdured decade posterior nocturne. Demise 1968. Non-ballistic sed cardiacum. Irenice. Eodum Lenox Lounge. Bumpy samum confronte. Sed perspicuum Bumpy nocturnal probavit. Vulgo praetermissum. Periculosissimum telum non sclopetum. Praescentia hostilis precox. Adversari consilium in victoriam transmutare. Schach ludere 2.000 damas discunt. Big Sam pecuniam 50.000 abstulit. Novum eboracum dereliquit cum ignominia sola. Bumpy ad angulum tabular redit. Cognac consumavit. Harlem rex permansit.